we're back with another Couch Potato General Manager video. Week 8 odds, NFL odds and picks. And Drew, last week you had another solid week. You were above 500. You went 7-6. I actually rebounded. I actually bounced back. After a 4-10 start, I followed that up with an 8-5 performance. So I appreciate the clapping it up. You know what I mean? So let's get into week 8 and let's start with the Thursday night game. But before that, I want to make sure our listeners are aware that we have a partnership with betus.com, one of the foremost sports books in the United States. Drew and I have leveraged this particular sports book for many, many years. I think even before we even started this YouTube channel.
Right.
We had been dealing with betus.com. So they have an excellent platform. Check out that link in the description as well as the pinned comment. So, Drew, with that being said, let's get into the Thursday night game. We have Green Bay at Arizona. Arizona is favored 6.5. Who you got?
So, Devontae Adams, is he playing? I know they put him on the COVID list. That's one question. And then I think JJ Watt, I think same thing. COVID just is sneaking in there, it's getting people. So that's tough, man. I mean, without Devontae Adams, bro, I don't. You know what I'm saying? It's Aaron Rodgers or bust. It's not. I would say it's Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones or bust.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna stick with the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh.
But the question is, will Green Bay cover? That's 6.5. That's the question.
Right.
I'm gonna take Arizona to cover the 6.5, and I'm comfortable. Okay. Without Devontae Adams, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think the thought process here obviously is that Arizona's going to score points. Nobody's been able to actually slow them down, except for San Francisco a couple weeks ago. They've put up a lot of points. Kyler's playing at an MVP level. He appears to have all of his weapons at his disposal, whereas Aaron Rodgers, his primary target, his go-to guy, the one guy that consistently beats man-to-man coverage, you know what I mean? It's basically Devontae Adams and everybody else as far as the passing game is concerned. You can obviously sprinkle in Aaron Jones a bit there as well. But, I wonder whether or not Green Bay's, running attack, their offensive line can move guys around, move that front seven, displace them, and keep this one close, keep this one within that 6.5 point. But I'm going to, on a short week, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think Green Bay covers. I think Arizona ultimately comes away with a win because of what I mentioned, at the top there in terms of Devontae Adams and the fact that, you don't necessarily have guys beyond him that are consistently winning, right? But I think AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, I think they get it going on the ground enough to kind of slow down Arizona's attack, keep Kyler Murray on the sideline a little bit. I imagine Green Bay is going to try to shorten this game some, you know what I'm saying, limit Arizona's opportunities, and I think they can keep it within, that 6.5 spread. Let's move on to an AFC East matchup with Miami visiting the Buffalo Bills, and Buffalo, obviously, one of the Super Bowl favorites, perhaps one of maybe 2 to 3 teams in the AFC that we think could make a legitimate run here. They're favored by 13.5. What do you think, Drew?
Is this the game that Tua got hurt in back in the day, back before, and I think they got blown out 35-0?
Yeah, I think that was the game that he went down. I think that was the game he went down. Yep.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and hit that rinse and repeat.
Oh man.
Buffalo who's coming off of
the bye.
Excuse me, and the week before they lost to Tennessee. So. Yep. Man, this is easy. This is easy pickings for me. They're gonna cover the 14, man. I don't see any way, shape, or form outside of Josh Allen getting hurt that they don't cover nor win the football game.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go with Buffalo as well. It's a big number, but the way Miami has played this season, they've been competitive the last couple of weeks, but those aren't good football teams. Let's call it what it is. Atlanta, Jacksonville, those aren't quality football teams. Those are below average football teams at best. So I'm with you. Buffalo is too explosive. I think they kind of got in their way a little bit, and of course they eventually succumbed to Derrick Henry 2 weeks ago. But Miami doesn't have that. They don't have a guy that you necessarily have to game plan for outside of maybe Xavier and Howard, you know what I'm saying, on either side of the ball, certainly not on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Buffalo as well. We're gonna go to the NFC South and Carolina visiting the Falcons. And the Falcons are favored -3. The Falcons have a couple wins here. They seem to be getting certain things worked out. Carolina's in a little bit of a tailspin. They've dropped the last 3, I believe. Is it 4 or 3?
4. They're on 4 now.
They've dropped the last 4, unfortunately, and I don't think Christian McCaffrey's going to be back. So, what's your thoughts on this one?
I like Carolina coming into the season. They showcased their first 3 games. Like, okay, they might be legit, and then they go and they face teams that are actually good, and they get their head smashed in. Somewhat. The biggest problem, obviously, is the quarterback position. Also, that the receivers just aren't catching the football. Like, no. I don't know what else people want Sam Darnold to do outside of not turn the football over. Mm-hmm. He can't throw and catch footballs. But, and I know Atlanta, they've won what, 3 or 4 straight. I think it's 3 straight. But I don't like watching them, bro. Like, of all the teams, of all the games that I can't. It's boring. To me, it's slow, and I think Carolina's got some juice. They got some things to prove. It's a division game. I think if they don't get this one, I think it's gonna go downhill real fast, right? So yeah. I'm gonna take Carolina, and I'm gonna take them to cover the 3.
Not to win outright though.
No. Oh well.
Or are you?
No, I'm brave, bro. I'm brave.
Okay. All right. Say it with your chest.
They're gonna win outright.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm gonna go with Carolina to cover. I am not as bold as you to go as far as Carolina winning outright. I just feel like Atlanta's the type of team that allows the opposition to hang around. You know what I'm saying? One way or the other. They tend to make games closer than they really should be at playing down to the competition. I also think Carolina's defense certainly has something to prove. I mean, it's not as if they've been playing poorly, but they've been put in some compromising positions. You know what I mean? Without Carolina sustaining drives, you mentioned it, the drops, some of Sam Darnold's inconsistency in terms of mechanics and decision making. The fact that they haven't had Christian McCaffrey to kind of really, and it's not even so much the running game per se, but just his ability to create yardage after contact and make plays in the passing game. It's a huge element of Carolina's offense. So more pressure has been put on a very talented, albeit young defense in Carolina. I think their defensive line, I think their pass rush affects Matt Ryan enough that they certainly cover and possibly win, but definitely I think they cover. Moving right along, we have Philadelphia at Detroit, and Philly is favored on the road -3.5. Your thoughts, Drew?
I want Detroit to get a win, bro.
Me too.
I just need them to. I don't care who they beat, as long as it's not my team.
Sure.
I just need them to get a win.
Sure.
I definitely think that you got to take +3.5. It's not a very good football team. They do fight till the end. They had a shot to win last week if Goff doesn't turn the football over there in the red zone. They pulled out all the stops, but maybe a Q-tip on the sink. So they left it out there. We'll talk about that in a different video. But I'm gonna take them to cover the 3.5. Man, I think that's safe. They gave you the little half for help.
They did give you the half for help, didn't they? That is enticing, the rub, bro. Right there. It is enticing. It is enticing. I feel like, I haven't really looked too far ahead in terms of Detroit's schedule, but I feel like you got to get this one. Yeah. This is the one. Philadelphia does not have a identity other than, Jalen Hurts, hey, try to make a play right now. You know what I mean? Right. There's a lot of question marks in terms of their defense, particularly at the second level. I think DeAndre Swift could be in for a big game. I was expecting this against Cincinnati when I picked them in that particular game, but it didn't come to fruition. Of course, Swift had the big play last week. I think this has to be, and I'm only going with it because of the half. If they had put this at 3, I was going with Philadelphia. But because of that half, that +3.5, I think Detroit covers. I do think they cover. I actually think they get the win outright. Next up, we have the AFC South matchup between Tennessee visiting the Indianapolis Colts. And, at the beginning of this day, the line at Bet Us was -1 Tennessee, and now it has changed. They are now +1. Indianapolis is now favored. Drew, what are your thoughts on the line changing, and ultimately, who do you pick in this one?
It makes me feel somebody knows something to be pouring all this money into the Colts. It's kind of strange. I'm taking the Titans +1. I mean, I guess we can call it a pick 'em if you want.
Sure.
But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the Tennessee Titans. They're hot. I don't trust Wentz. I love Jonathan Taylor. I need to see more of him. I don't quite trust what they're doing on offense yet. And I love what the Titans are doing. I think they figured it out now in terms of offensively, anyways, and defensively they're coming along defensively. So I'm gonna take the Titans.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our I Right 32. We talk about Tennessee and Kansas City, having rewatched that game and just the game plan, and they kind of put it in neutral, in the second half of that contest. When in the first half, the ball was coming out of Tannehill's hands very quickly. He was hitting that back foot and delivering. AJ Brown looked the healthiest he's looked in the entire season. Julio got involved a little bit, and of course you got Derrick Henry, who's the engine to that offense. So I'm taking Tennessee +1. I would have taken Tennessee -1 in this contest. Definitely taking them +1. Moving right along, we have the Rams visiting the Houston Texans, and the Rams are favored at -14.5 on the road. I'm going with the Rams, man.
Easy.
It's not easy in the sense of the number,
right?
But you know what? It's just one of those things. I mean, obviously we took Detroit, and I think the line was at 13.5 last week, and Detroit covered.
Yeah,
Detroit covered. You know what I'm saying? I actually think Detroit, despite the fact that they haven't gotten a win yet, particularly without Tyrod Taylor in the lineup, I think Detroit is a better team. I think they're playing harder, week in and week out. Houston just traded away Mark Ingram, so I'm not sure what that means for the offense exactly, but I'm gonna give the Rams another shot. It wouldn't surprise me though if Houston covers. It wouldn't surprise me. It's an NFL team at the end of the day.
I'm gonna take Houston to cover. That is a big number. They're at home. The Rams are kind of funny, man. They kind of, what I'm saying? Like they're this team that they got all this star power, but it doesn't quite. It's not the ending score isn't always indicative of the talent that they have. It's kind of weird. And the Texans, they're weird too. But you know what I mean. So they fight hard. Although last week they got the head smashed in. They don't have anything to lose. This is another game the Rams are going into where a team has nothing to lose, right?
Sure.
They're not really playing for anything outside of a draft pick. And so, I expect the Texans to score some points, and I expect them to at least cover this 14.5 we got going.
All right, fair enough. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it does work out that way ultimately, because that is a large number. Next up, we have Cincinnati at the New York Jets. Zach Wilson out. The Jets traded for Joe Flacco, so I'm anticipating, maybe not this week, but we may be seeing Joe Flacco here in the short term. As far as this contest is concerned, Cincinnati is favored at 10.5. Who you got in this one?
10.5. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Bengals, and this is why. Chase, Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd's not even involved. He's not even
he's
involved.
Really not.
That's
he's
the
really
thing,
not,
man. He's not even involved right now. Yeah.
And you think about what the Bengals did last week against the
Ravens.
And I know the Ravens, they do what they do,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of leaving their corners out there on the island. Not that the Jets are going to do that. They most likely will not. But just in terms of those guys catching those passes with guys all over them and being able to break tackles and make moves. And it looks like Zach Taylor's figured it out in terms of giving the football, whether it be in the pass game or in the run game, to Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jets, I mean, I liked their defense, and they haven't played well in a while. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take these Bengals and get the hell out of Dodge. I think they'll cover the 10.5.
I am inclined. To say, you know what, the home team might have a chance here. Robert Saleh is a defensive guy, but I'm gonna take the 10.5. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm gonna take the 10.5 in Cincinnati as well. To the AFC North, and we have Pittsburgh coming off a bye facing the Cleveland Browns, who are favored at 3.5 in this contest.
Yeah, this is one of those games where how you put in your parlay together.
Sure.
You're like, I'm not touching that game. I'm not touching that game. I'm 100% sure on that game. This is one of those games where I'm good, not touching it. it's going to
You
mess
don't
up
want
my
no
parlay.
parts.
I would use some more colorful words as my brother would use, but we're trying to keep it kid friendly, if you will. But it will mess up your parlay touching this football game. But if I had to pick one or pick a team, I don't like the half, so I'm going to go Pittsburgh covers the 3.5. Is Baker playing? Keenum didn't play bad last week, but I'm more comfortable with what the Steelers are doing and who they are. I don't know if they've quite figured it out yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and I think they cover the 3.5.
Obviously we're doing this pretty early in the week, and I'm not sure how things are going to play out. Is Nick Chubb going to be back this week? Is Baker far enough along? I don't think they're going to actually have him play in this game.
Right.
Ben to this point still doesn't invoke a whole lot of confidence as far as I'm concerned. But I think Cleveland is going to struggle to score points. I think they're going to struggle to score points without a healthy Mayfield and Chubb, and then of course we know that Kareem Hunt's on the shelf as well. So the 3.5 scares me a little bit as well. Cleveland did handle Pittsburgh the last time we saw these two teams play, but it seems like a very different set of circumstances this time around, and I think Pittsburgh can cover the half. The half makes it interesting. So I agree with you. I think Pittsburgh can cover. San Francisco favorite visiting the Chicago Bears, and I'll start with this one. There's just been more evidence of the fact that Matt Nagy doesn't know what to do with Justin Fields. And I don't mean to exonerate Justin Fields of some of his poor play. Right. I think what he struggles at in terms of the how quickly he's processing, cycling through things, certainly is something to continue to bear in mind, something that he needs to improve upon. But there's some stark differences in terms of his completion percentage when he's running play action versus a straight drop back. Success that he has when they move the pocket, when they're doing play action versus dropping straight back. And here's the thing, that doesn't fall squarely on Justin Fields. You still have to have your receivers win. You still have to have your tight ends win. You still have to have the protection to hold up. So, based on what I saw Sunday night from San Francisco, they without George Kittle, they're not getting Brandon Ayuk involved. There's a lot to suggest that, Chicago could truly come away, particularly when they're playing defense well, but Khalil Mack isn't expected to play.
I will take it if it's 3. I'll take it as 4. Doesn't matter. For me, I'm
either way, you good.
Either way, I'm good. There's things about the 49ers that I think they have a huge issue with Kittle not being there. When you look at the numbers,
Trent Williams as well.
It's Deebo Samuels or bust.
Yes.
That's it. Right. And when you talk about that type of offense, you figured you'd be able to get everybody involved, but that's not the case. So, but the Bears, Nagy, I mean, you don't help your offensive line. You're not helping your quarterback. You can't be trusted. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the 49ers, and if the 49ers don't win this, they're in big trouble, right? Yeah. They're in a tailspin. So I think their back is against the wall, and I think this is a must-win for them. So yeah, I think they win, and I think they cover the -4.
Okay. Yeah, I actually wouldn't take San Francisco at -4. I would lean Chicago. Perhaps Justin Fields, takes a little bit of upon himself to make some plays, as opposed to, because right now they have him operating like a robot. They don't want him changing plays. You know what I'm saying? And he's trying to operate the offense, but the offense isn't any good. It's that simple. Schematically, it's not any good. You don't necessarily have all of your pieces, and the pieces that you do have are playing at a particularly high level. So yeah, at -3, I'm with San Francisco. At -4, I might lean Chicago. Under those circumstances. Next up, we have Jacksonville going out west, facing Seattle, -3. Now, of course, Seattle's dropped the last 2 with Geno Smith under center. But I think they get this one. I think they get this one. I know Jacksonville got their first win in London against the Fins. They're coming off the bye. They're feeling good about themselves, but I think ultimately Seattle gets this done. I think they get it going on the ground and then make a couple of plays throughout the passing game.
So this is one of those games where I would put this in a parlay. I call it my underdog parlay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna put 2 or 3 teams in a parlay.
See what you could do. See if you can
Yeah,
shake some.
see if I can hit a lick. You know what I mean?
See if
So
you can shake some.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with losing that, right? Because I'm not betting the house on that.
Sure.
It's a team like you said, Jacksonville. They're coming off a bye, coming off a win. Seattle, who they played New Orleans Monday night. They're coming off a Monday night game. That Jacksonville kind of has the advantage there, although Jacksonville has to go to Seattle. Do we trust Urban Meyer? I know you don't.
Not as far as I could throw him.
Not as far as you could throw him. And I know Seattle, they played an offense in the Saints last week who, it's a bad defense versus a bad passing offense in the Saints. And if it wasn't for the field goals, Seattle probably wins that football game. But there's something, I don't know, man. Something saying, you know what? Let me not play with it, man.
Thought you were sticking with your gut. I thought you were sticking with your gut, man.
Nah. I talked about my loser parlay. I probably still do that.
Right. But
in the bigger parlay,
yes,
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take Seattle.
Makes sense. That makes sense to me. I think if this game was being played in Duval, I think you may have a different consideration. Particularly if you were getting those points. You know what I'm saying? As the underdog at home, I might roll with that. But going out west, you know what I'm saying, dealing with that noise, I just think, I'm watching that Monday night game, right? We can spend a little bit more time on this particular one because it's an interesting one. And you're facing the Saints, who have a quality defense. Obviously, they play good defense, right? Jacksonville doesn't have that. And then offensively, Jackson, or rather New Orleans, they have some challenges in terms of their passing game, particularly on the perimeter. But what they do, they got my boy involved, right? Alvin Kamara. They got him involved in the passing game in which he truly excels. That isn't to say that he can't, run inside, outside, run from a traditional backfield or take those mesh point type handoffs. He can do it all, but he's at his best when he's operating in space as a receiving threat out of the backfield, in my opinion. And I don't know that Jacksonville has that element. You know what I'm saying? I believe that was supposed to be, to a certain degree, Travis Etienne's role. You know what I mean? And of course, they lose him for the season during preseason. So, yeah, I think even though Seattle has some legitimate issues on the defensive side of the ball, Geno Smith clearly isn't Russell Wilson. Geno still has a live arm. I think he'll be able to get it to their weapons, and certainly, I think they're going to be able to run the football. Alex Collins should be a little bit more healthy. You know what I'm saying? And they'll be able to kind of establish that running game and wear down Jacksonville, if nothing else. Moving right along, we have the Patriots going out west to play the Chargers, who are favored at -5.5. At the time that I evaluated these lines, Drew, what does it look like right now?
It's 5. Chargers -5.
Okay. They lost a half, huh?
I threw somebody in there from.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what? The Patriots, they went out there, they beat up on the Jets, and they beat up on the Jets. They did more than that. And the thing about watching the Patriots, man, that I don't like is that for them to go down the field, it has to be some misdirection, round, reverse throw, flea flicker. Like there has to be some type of trickery within it. And the Chargers are a team that keeps everything in front of them for the most part in terms of defense. And for me, this is easy. I don't like the -5. Just because it's the Chargers and Chargers do some weird stuff. Things happen. They change the color of the bolt. Said it a million times. But I'm gonna go ahead and take them -5. They're coming off a bye. Patriots do got to go out there out west to go see them. And I just don't trust the Patriots offense entirely right now. And I don't think they trust Mac Jones. I don't know what he's done for them not to trust him, but maybe it's the receivers. Maybe that's what they're doing.
The weaponry on the perimeter isn't necessarily scaring anybody, including a defense that obviously has quality defenders on the back end and really funnels the running game. But that's the reason why I'm going with New England. I think New England packs up their running game, and I think they play good enough defense. In order to keep this within striking distance. I don't think that they win, but I'm going to take the points because I expect Damian Harris, I expect that running game, that offensive line to get lathered up. We talked about it previously, primarily at I-Ride 32, where Chargers have an issue stopping the run. Now, did they get that fixed coming out of the bye? Did they tighten that up? We'll see. But I'm gonna actually go with New England with these points in this particular case. I won't pick them to go outright. I think Justin Herbert is just too talented. I think they have too many options offensively that New England has to deal with. But I also expect Belichick maybe to get a little bit more creative. The last time we saw Justin Herbert, he struggled. He struggled with some things that he had not seen yet before. I think Belichick can do a little of that. Maybe not enough to get a win, but certainly to take those points with. Next up, we have the Washington football team at the Denver Broncos, -3. The Broncos are favored, -3 at home.
Yeah, it's another game I'm not touching. I don't like this, man.
It's weird.
It's
a weird one.
I don't know what the Broncos are doing. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, right now they're pretenders. The Washington football team can't score in they can't score in the red zone to save their lives for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's like a line there that once they cross that imaginary line, bad things happen. But they can't score in the red zone. But I'm going to take the football team. I don't trust Denver as far as I can throw them. I can't do it. I need a healthy Teddy Bridgewater. Is he healthy?
I think it's a good question. It's a good question. And looking at this last Thursday night's game, Teddy, that first half played very poorly. And then it seemed like he finally started to settle in. I think, a long 10 days worth of rest will do Teddy some good. I do believe Denver covered in that particular game, if I'm not mistaken, facing Cleveland. Right. So I'm actually going to go with Denver here. I'm going to go out on a limb because Terry McLaurin seems to be nursing an injury as well as Antonio Gibson. You understand what I'm saying? And the only thing about here is I can see a scenario where J.D. McKissic gets off. That second level of Denver's defense has really struggled to cover backs and tight ends, and that might be the difference in this one. But because of those big guns on the offensive side of the ball and how poorly Washington has played defensively here recently, or this year for that matter, I'm gonna go with Denver. I like the way Denver played in that second half. I'd like to see a little bit more Javonte Williams, even Melvin Gordon for that matter. The Broncos need to be as balanced as they possibly can be, but they also are going to get some help in terms of their passing game because I do expect Jerry Jeudy to play. I do expect him to play this game, so I think that could create another element that they haven't had when he went down to injury, as well as KJ Hamler. So I'm gonna go with Denver. Next up, we have your team, the Bucks, facing divisional foe New Orleans. The Bucks are favored -5.5, unless of course that line has changed.
I got -6.
Okay.
I haven't hit the refresh button.
Okay.
Let me hit it real quick. Let me see what it's.
Hit him with the rain stick.
Yeah. No, it's still -6 for me.
-6. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna. It could be 5.5. It could be.
Either way, you good.
Yeah. Either way, I'm good. This is the Bucks fan talking, but it's also a football fan talking. And just looking at the numbers, man, the Saints. I mean, they're not what they were last year. I don't even think they were what they were last year offensively. I think they're actually worse. So and again, you're keeping Jameis on that leash. You're reeling him in. Hey, we need you to temper it down now. Now he did take some shots on Monday Night Football. Passes were dropped. Not sure what was going on with those guys, but for me, there's just too much. There's too much firepower for the Bucks.
There is a lot of firepower.
Looks like they figured it out. And if the Leonard Fournette that we I've been watching for the past 2-3 weeks, if that's the guy, then I don't know that there's a team that can actually stop the Bucks just in general, right? Outside of themselves. And Levante David, he practiced today. I don't know, he was limited participant. He's a big time factor when we're talking about Kamara and
is big
in check, right? So yeah, I'm gonna take the Bucks -6. I think they probably win maybe by 10. So I'm comfortable with my -6.
Yeah, absolutely plausible. Is AB playing this game?
No, he's actually in crutches, so I doubt he's playing.
Gotcha. And we're not anticipating Gronk back, right?
No, he practiced today.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he practiced.
Did he?
Limited, but he practiced.
Limited. Yeah. Okay. I think I don't know how healthy Gronk will be, and of course losing AB.
Right.
Obviously, the Saints have a lot of depth. Or rather, the Bucks have a lot of depth on the offensive side of the ball. They can beat you with a lot of different guys. You lose AB, and you still feeling Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So there are very few teams who can manage something like that. But I'm actually gonna go with the Saints, man. I think this is the Jameis revenge game.
What?
I think Demario Davis and company, they had something to prove. I don't think they ultimately come away with the win, but I do. I'm gonna take the points at -6. I'm gonna take the points. I think they're gonna keep this game closer than anticipated. I think if you were talking about a hobbled Gronk, no AB, we're playing in New Orleans. They're lifting the mask mandate in New Orleans. There's a lot of things coming together here, man. So
it will come together when they play the Bucs.
Exactly. Right. I don't think there's any coincidence here. I think that's all by design as well. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm gonna take the points with the Saints.
Let me ask you real quick. Do you think it's an indictment on the receiving core after that football game? Sean Payton's like, all right, man, I need to get Kamara out here catching more balls, but I need a running back that I can trust that knows the offense and go out and get Mark Ingram. You think that's an indictment on those receivers?
I think it's a willingness. I mean, you can call it an indictment on the receivers. The receivers haven't played all of it. You know, Traquan Smith just got back. You know, he and Winston weren't necessarily on the same page. You know, who's out there winning? Who's out there winning, man? You know, I thought Adam Trautman would take a big step. Callaway's nice, but Callaway's more of a secondary, tertiary guy. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't proven to be a legitimate number one to this point. You know what I'm saying? Despite what shortcomings Jameis might have, he just hasn't had that guy that he could rely upon like that. And in game, Sean Payton made an adjustment, and they said, you know what? I got to get back to featuring Kamara in our passing game. Right. It's a huge part of our offense. You know what I'm saying? So now if you can take some of that burden of the rushing attack off of Kamara and keep him fresh, particularly when, you know, you need that third down or even in the red zone, because he definitely has a nose for the end zone. You understand what I'm saying? I think that opens up the offense. And then, of course, down the road, you get Michael Thomas back potentially. We see what happens from that perspective. But I have a lot of belief in the Saints defense. I have a lot of belief in their Saints defense. As explosive as Tampa Bay is, I think this is more about the Saints defense than anything else, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So we move on to the Sunday night game, and Dallas is visiting Minnesota. Dallas is favored -3. Your thoughts, Drew?
I got a -2. But my question is Dak playing? Is Dak playing?
I think Dak's going to play.
Okay. We can talk about this on both ends. If he's not playing, I'm very comfortable with taking Minnesota
to win.
+2.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable doing that.
Yep.
But if he is playing, I'm going to go Dallas all the way. That's easy peasy. Let me squeeze.
Let me squeezy. I'm actually going to agree with you on both ends of that spectrum. You know, if Dak's playing, you know, give me the -3 in Dallas. If he's not, or rather the -2, since the line has moved. If he's not, give me Kirk. Give me Kirk and Dalvin. You know what I mean? Light him up. You know, just avoid Trayvon Diggs. And then finally, we have the New York Football Giants visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored -10 after only scoring 3 points against Tennessee. And I'm telling you, man, they were shut out for a half. They only managed those 3 points. I believe Mahomes will play. They you know, he took a blow to the head, and there was questions about whether or not he'd be past the protocol. Of course, they indicated that he passed the protocol, but they just kept him out of the game for precautionary purposes. So, who you got?
I'm the most comfortable thing I'm doing is taking the over, but I got it at 52.5. But the Chiefs got so many problems, man, and I think the Giants' offense, what they want to do, how they want to move, I think they can apply the pressure. I think this might be one of those games where it comes down to who has ball last. I know, obviously. Really? Yeah, man. I think the Giants feeling themselves last week. I think they the defense played very well last week against.
But it was Carolina, man.
It was Carolina. It was Carolina. It was. But the Chiefs, man, they have the most turnovers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They have 9 interceptions. We know who's throwing those. And Kansas City hasn't quite figured it out. I don't know that obviously the Giants defense, I don't think they have anybody that can just, slow down or stop, the two main cogs within that offense.
Hill and Kelsey.
Right.
Yep.
But I do think that the Giants D-line can apply pressure, and I think they can do it not from the edge, but more from, the middle of the defense.
Don't sleep on the Z's. The Z's
no,
gone. Don't sleep on my guy.
Listen, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Just check it.
Yeah, he's one of the better rookies. We can talk about that later. But
yeah.
This is funny, man. To be safe.
I hear you.
This is one of those I'm putting in my my underdog parlay.
Yes.
I would take the Giants. And I have it plus 10. I'm gonna take the plus 10 easily, bro. I'm comfortable.
I want to do it. I want to join you. I want to join you. This game is in Kansas City.
It is.
Even though the formula is out there, you still have to execute. The question is, do you have the personnel to actually execute? I'm not convinced of that. That isn't to say that there aren't aspects of the Giants defense to like, but I'm not convinced of that. On the other side of the coin, who's healthy? Is Kadarius Toney going to be in the lineup? Are we getting Kenny Golladay back? Is Sterling Shepard going to be good to go? There's question marks with respect to that, because it isn't as if that offense really played well. Carolina gave, New York some short fields. They made some mistakes and kind of fumbled the bag after a certain amount of time. Of course, Darnold got benched in that game last week against the Giants, right? So while the Kansas City obviously has been struggling, they have issues. I think the fact that they're home, I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to execute the formula. And Chris Jones didn't play a full complement of snaps. He only played about 59% of the snaps the last game. But whenever he's on the field, and he wasn't gassed. I think he was kind of getting his legs underneath him.
Right.
He's a presence, and I think he could be the difference in this game. I've mentioned it before. I think Chris Jones he's almost damn near a 1B for Kansas City, because everything on the defensive side of the ball, right, stems from him. People like to say, it's Tyrann Mathieu, but no, it is Chris Jones. It is Chris Jones. And I also saw him lining up in the interior where he belongs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to go out on a limb, man. I think them being home and the fact that Chris Jones, kind of got his legs underneath him last week, I think he completely dominates this game. And you get the big performance from Hill and or Kelsey in this one. So I'm going to go with Kansas City minus 10. All right. Yeah, man. We'll see how it plays out ultimately. Guys, be sure to check out that link for the Bet Us subscription. Again, Drew and I have used this for many years. We swear by it. BetUs.com. Make sure you use that link in the description and in the pinned comment. Like, comment, and subscribe.